And we are live, back
Okay, well,
in high quality without any ad thing.
oh yeah, no StreamYard duck this time. I got my Spritz card refilled with Dash, and that's what we're paying for the StreamYard with. So we got that up to date, and yeah, we've got AJ back with us again for the second week in a row. Welcome
again.
AJ. Yep.
Hello.
More AJ.
If you missed it, last week we talked about AJ's RPC library and service that he has a current proposal up for Dash to maintain that service. So check that out if you haven't seen it already from last week. This week we're talking about
digitalcash.dev.
Digitalcash.dev is the domain, and specifically rpc.digitalcash.dev and TRPC. Not the kind of TRPC that you're thinking of, Anthony, because I know that you're thinking of TypeScript RPC when I say TRPC.
You know how much I love TypeScript.
I'm thinking of getting -testnet.dev and putting all the testnet stuff on a separate domain.
Okay.
Rather than having T prefixes. So the TRPC will probably change at some point.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So anyway, today we're talking about CoinJoin and private send and the browser and bringing those all together. We've got CoinJoin working in the browser. Do you want to give us a little just description of what you've done, AJ, and then we'll jump right into
Let's tease it. Let's tease it. Let's tease it. Put me up on the screen, Coach. Okay. Let's see. Screen share. Window. Here we go. We're gonna share it. All right. So here we are, and what basically you've got your faucets. You've got all this wallet information. This is testnet stuff right now, and you know it's not polished. Everything is on one page. There's no tabs. You kind of have to watch the little demo video to know exactly how to do it, but you know, whatever. So you got your wallet information here. You've got information about coins that you currently have here. You have the ability to send to an address, to send a memo, because a collateral ends up being much like a memo. Actually, it just is a memo with a specific fee. And then we've got a cash drawer, which we'll talk about that later. And this is basically targets for what we want. So let's say I actually don't want any of these. I'm just going to zero things out for a minute. And then I'll just we'll do part of, well, then let me go down. You've got unspent addresses, unused change addresses, spent addresses. Let's say I just want to denominate some coins. Let's say that I want 5 of these. So I'm going to just do denominate coins. All right. Are you sure? Yes.
Oh, and by the way, just so you know, we don't see those alerts that you're seeing.
Oh, you don't see the alerts?
Yeah.
Okay, well, next time I'll click share window or share screen instead of share window. So yes, there were alerts. I use pop-ups because it was simpler than, you know, I just went simple. Like I didn't do any styling on this. This is a free theme that I just like because it's fairly simple and clean, so I use it a lot. So I didn't actually create a modal, and the theme doesn't have a specific modal in it. You can do a modal with it. There's not a modal thing. Anyway,
yeah, you're using the built-in browser alert, which we don't see.
Yeah,
but maybe when you do come up with those, just say what they say.
Yeah, so it says, are you sure you want to send what was it, 0.01 to, and then whatever address that it had picked. And so now you can see there's 5 spent addresses. The unused addresses have gone shorter. And then now if we go back up to our coins, you can see that these are bolded and italicized, which means that they are denominated. And then we'll do a demo a little bit later, or let's just do the demo now, actually. We'll just do the demo now. I just have to open it up in 2 browsers in order for it to work.
Actually, so I'm going to actually share my screen because I want to show something other than that real quick, because I'm going to actually be your mixing partner.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm going to share my screen and bring up, let's see, I'll just bring this up so you guys aren't seeing the infinite thing there. And then I'm going to bring up my testnet node If you're wondering, I've increased the font and bolded it as much as possible, so hopefully it's a little easier to see. I have not yet done any. This is the testnet. You can see. Can you see my little window popping up here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So you can see this is orange. That means it's a testnet. You can also see this is test dash right here, down here. So I haven't done this yet ever on this wallet. So I'm going to run the CoinJoin process on.
This is not going to work the way you think.
Okay,
we
why
need to
not?
do it in the browser, and the reason is so your computer is semi-randomly selecting from 4,000 nodes, and in order for CoinJoin to work, you have to connect to a node where someone else is advertising the same denomination that you want to join on. The way that it's done in my demo is that it connects to a specific node. So rather than connecting to 1 out of 4,000 nodes randomly, it connects to a specific node. So when both browsers connect to a specific node, then they immediately have the same queue for the same denomination of coin. If your computer picks one at randomly and my browser picks one randomly and we're on testnet where there's just not as many pools available, and then we both try to, and my browser demo right now is only opening up one pool, whereas the desktop is opening up 10 pools, at least from what we saw the other day, it looks like. And so the desktop has been running in the background for a while, so it already has its pools built up, whereas the browser is not. Okay, well, the browser is not built to run 10 pools at a time right now. It can. It's just I don't have that functionality in because it was, the MVP demo that I was aiming for. So
sure,
it can do. You can do the CoinJoin between the desktop and the browser. It's just that if you want to do it quickly and you don't want to be having it wait there for several minutes potentially, trying to find a partner, then you need to connect to a node that already has the pool that you want. And when you listen. There will be a table for this later.
What do you mean? Just tell people what you mean by pools.
So there's a message called DarkSend queue, and the DarkSend queue message is broadcast from masternodes that you're connected to. And for every CoinJoin round that is in the what would we call that? In the aggregation phase or in the join phase, for the not ready phase. So they're broadcast, and the desktop client and the other clients that do this, they keep a running list. So right now, while we're unaware as to what the pools are, the desktop client is receiving broadcasts from 10 masternodes about the available pools. So the likelihood that any given masternode is currently processing a pool that you're interested in joining of the 5 possible denominations is actually decently high. I'm not sure if that holds on testnet as well as it does on mainnet, because I know that lots of people, that's all they're doing all day long is just running CoinJoin, and their coins have been mixed hundreds or thousands of times at this point. But anyway, so there's that aspect to it where in the browser demo, we're only connecting to one masternode, and we're not listening for pools ahead of time to know which coins we should select. Because that's the other thing, it's opportunistic. If you've got CoinJoin running and you need mixes of every coin, well, there's going to be a pool open. And even if it's not the pool you need most right now, it's going to be a pool that you can use on some denomination of coin until you've hit your cash drawer limits, which the cash drawer is not, the cash drawer exists in Dash QT, the desktop client, but it's not exposed. There's no way for you to access it.
Okay, so I was actually just going to talk about that, because this is basically your cash drawer options for the desktop client. You've got how many parallel sessions you want to allow. You've got the mixing rounds that you want to run. I'll just bump that up to 10. You got your target balance. These were all the defaults. I haven't changed anything about these. So it's interesting that the default inputs per denomination is targeting 50 and giving a maximum of 300, I'm going to bump that way down to 20 and 10. This is basically
You did 50 and 10.
Say what?
You did 50 and 10.
I don't know why, but okay. So let's do 20 and 10. And I'm just going to go ahead and start this. I have something like 10. I have like 40 dash, I think, of balance in my wallet. So I guess go ahead and say yes. I might be the only person mixing on testnet right now. Like, not many people are using testnet.
There definitely are mixes going on testnet, because I see the DarkSend queue message come through quite frequently, but it's not omnipresent, and it's not always the denomination that I want. So if I select 0.01 and a queue comes through for 1.0 and 0.1, I can't use it. And so one of the updates that will be coming, I believe, this week to this tool will be to put the DarkSend queues in a table, so that it's easier to select things that are actually in process, and then also connecting to multiple master nodes at a time, so that there are many queues available.
Okay, so I'm just I just kind of wanted to get this on screen just for out of curiosity. I'm going to open my debug.log, and I don't know. I guess probably nothing on here is private, but I don't know. How do I zoom in on this? I guess I don't know if I can actually. I'm just kind of trying to see.
Oh no, that's a QT window, not a console window.
You can see the submitted denominations here. So it's going for 0.01s and 0.1s at this point. And I was just kind of curious to see if I will have any kind of mixing partners right now. And then when you join in, if it would speed things up. So you're saying it won't connect to the nodes that I'm connecting to, but
if you can give me a list of nodes you're connected to, and
yeah,
like if you could,
that's what I was showing here on my peers. I don't know. Do you know the IP address of your? So you're connecting through RPC, your RPC service, right?
And you got 3590, 252, 3. Because I could.
So all of these are DCG ones that say DCG. So it'd be just the ones that don't. I'm assuming.
I don't know, but if you could copy and paste that to me, I could put that in the browser, and then that would guarantee that we're connected to one of the same nodes.
Okay. Let's see.
But
anyway, we don't have to go through this. I thought it might just be interesting to see some of to see if we could connect to each other and see that. But anyway, let's go ahead and share your screen now, and we'll.
Yeah, let's just share my screen. I can demo this, and then we can definitely get it later so that it works for that use case. Okay, I'm going to share the screen. All right, so what I have is two browsers open, and I need to make sure that the second one is actually connected. Yeah, it looks like I can get my dev console open too. So what you can see, there's these DarkSend queue messages that come through, and then I have here printed out what denomination that queue is for. And so the queue represents basically a round that's being built up.
I don't think we're seeing what you're seeing.
You are not seeing what I'm seeing. Sorry, I shared the wrong screen. Let me try that again. There we go. Okay, sorry about that. So there's two wallets. I've got one blue and one purple. They're in different browsers, because if you have shared state between the wallet and you try to open up both wallets, it's not going to work, because the wallets do things like try to make sure that you get a unique address, and if they both mark the same address as pending, and then and there's checks to make sure that things are the way that they're supposed to be, and
Mm-hmm.
if the wallet is in an inconsistent state because it's opened up in two different tabs, but it's using the same data storage, then it gets confused because the memory state is not the same. Anyway, so here we are, and you can see there's some DarkSend queue messages going through, and they come through at different amounts. So there's the smallest one right there. You can kind of count the zeros from the end, and then I think that represents the one that has no zeros at the end has 3 zeros at the beginning, so it's 0.00. Or maybe 000. I don't remember. But anyway, so you can see they're coming through in different denominations. This is actually, by random chance, this is a really good node to have connected to right now, in terms of the variety of denominations that are in this pool. And then I've got another one of those windows open for the other browser so that I can see that both are connected and working. So anyway, I can go through here and let's see, what have I got? 0.01. So I'm going to select 2 of these over here, and I'm going to select Run CoinJoin, and then
Wait.
you can see
before you do that, have you done any coin joining yet, or just the denominating?
What?
Have you done any coin joining yet, or just denominating?
Just denominating.
Okay. On my side, I am seeing denominated 100%, partially mixed 3.6%, and mixed 0%. That just means that somebody outside besides you must be mixing on this network.
Yes.
I guess.
Yes. So once I click the button, I kind of have to click the other button, otherwise it's going to time out. So I just went ahead and clicked the button.
Okay.
On
fine.
both of these browsers. So I'd selected this coin here on this browser, and then 2 coins in the other browser, and it already completed. It already worked out. So there's a bunch of DSQ messages broadcast right as you started speaking. I was going to point out that the messages had just bumped up, because as soon as I click over in one browser, the other browser is going to get the DSQ that browser is causing to announce or re-announce.
Okay.
And so that DSQ for the amount had gone through along with other DSQs that are happening on the network, the DarkSend queue, and then we see that it signs collateral. So you can see that the collateral signing calls the memo signing, because the collateral is a type of memo. In most cases, you can actually do the collateral in a bunch of different ways, at least not according to the spec as much as according to the implementation, because I've tested things that are against the spec and they work. So that would mean that it would not be safe to do it that way in the future, because when we have multiple Dash clients and it's not just the Dash core client, they would probably follow the spec. Anyway, so you can see that I've got my collateral and memo sign messages, and then the DSA comes in. So I'm sending the DSA, that's what I'm announcing. A DSSU comes back to let me know that I've been accepted into a pool, and that happens immediately. So that means that the pool is already open. So this console may have been for the browser that was the second one. Anyway, so the DSSU message usually comes back to say you're accepted or that you're rejected. And I don't have that debug printout. Then the DSQs continue the whole time, because that's whatever's going on the network. Some more DSSUs. And then we have the DSF, which it's really weird. It's called the DarkSend Final. It's actually the DarkSend Draft. It's very weird that it's called Final, because what it is it's a draft transaction. And then you create the final transaction and send it in, or rather you create a partial transaction. So a transaction with partial signatures, and you send that in. So that's what the DSF message looks like. And I've got that logged out, so you can see it's drafting these inputs and it's drafting these outputs. And so if we were to look at this, let's see, does it actually show the addresses? We could convert these pub key hashes and find out which addresses are in my wallet. And that's what this does, because when it gets this draft, it has to look through all the inputs and say, okay, which of these inputs are the inputs that I can sign, and which of these outputs are outputs that I can sign. And then I'm going to send back a message that includes partial signatures across the inputs I care about, and actually all the outputs. It's gonna sign all the outputs, not just the ones I care about. And then Then I send a message called DSS, which is DarkSend. I think it's DarkSend signed. And then we get back a message DSC, which is DarkSend complete. And so that lets us know that it was already processed in the queue. And then if we were to look at these addresses, so I could go look at these addresses here. Let's look at the RPC tool real quick. And then we'll do get address deltas, and then, whoops, address. I think it's address, or is it addresses? Address. Oh, bless me. Either way. All right, so now we'll run the RPC and we can see the output. And you can see exactly what you'd expect is that you see one coin that had received and one coin that was spent. And this spend right here was, if we were to do get raw transaction, whoops, and then we put in our transaction ID and true that we want it back decoded. Then we can take a look at these and we can see that this is a CoinJoin transaction. So there's a value, there's a value, there's a value. We can expect several of these because there's others connected. There's a value. And so you can see from this that was in fact a CoinJoin transaction. Another thing that will let you know it's a CoinJoin transaction and not some, magic trickery that I'm doing to fool everyone, is that there's no transaction fee. If you add up the inputs and the outputs, you'll see that they're synonymous. There's no transaction fee. And that's the only reason that a masternode is required for this, is that the collateral is submitted via a side channel. Now, it's kind of tomato potato because the collateral still ends up in the same block. So it's not like it's not linked, because anybody who knows the protocol is going to know that they're going to be looking for a collateral transaction, and they know that the collateral transaction is likely very small. Although, according to the current implementation, you can just send any transaction. Like if I wanted to pay you for something and it didn't matter when I paid you, I could pay you anytime in the week. I could set up that payment and I could use the payment to you as a collateral transaction. It doesn't have to be a memo as per the implementation that exists in Dash Core. It will accept any transaction as collateral as long as the fee is the right amount. So, but knowing that, understanding the way the spec works, you can still figure out which transaction was the collateral related to, CoinJoin sessions. You can't tell which of the CoinJoin sessions in the block it's related to necessarily. Ideally, yeah, you definitely can't, but you can still tell it's related. So it's still a signal. It's like one step removed. So potato.
Can you pop this open, this transaction open in the Insight?
Yeah, sure. So let's go to Insight here. Whoops.
Just so that people can see that with the more familiar interface. Anthony, you're smiling. I don't know if you're just having good times over there. If there's something relevant to this that you're.
No, sorry, I'm messaging my partner.
Okay.
Off my own world. Sorry.
No worries.
So I don't think the testnet Insight's working right now. That is often the state of it. Testnet Insight. Well, Insight's on life support, and testnet Insight has not quite made life support priority.
You're on the Dash Evo domain, and that's not the one that's actively maintained, I think.
All right. Well, which one is the one that's actively maintained?
It's the one that has like networks.testnet something or other.
Let me see if I've got it on digitalcash.dev. Whoops. Because I did include.
Yeah, let's see.
This one. It's this one. Insight UI here. Okay. Yeah, on Dash digitalcash.dev, I'm including links to resources that are common resources like this. Well, I think it's defunct. It's not showing up.
Try refreshing.
All right, I'll try refreshing.
But you're right. These tools are not very well maintained right now. All right, so
simpler tools mean simpler maintenance. Okay, so anyway, but yeah, you were able to see this. We could have put this in a table, and
Sure.
you know, you'd be able to see it in a more familiar way. But yeah, so the point is that's the CoinJoin demo. It works.
Cool.
You know, and we only go up from here. But this is simple debugging tool. Yeah. So that unfortunately took a little longer than I was hoping, but it does the business, as they say.
Yeah. So Bridgewater has a comment on the Discord and a question as well. He says, regarding that last thing, which was talking about the priority column, when you or Jojo or whoever makes a nice front end for it, I'd recommend using words instead of numbers for priority, like highest versus 10, because there's already so many numbers to look at when dealing with the denominations. Just one little thing that jumped out at me. It's not too important. I find your presentation. Da, 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 da. So anyway, I wanted to kind of echo that as well. Like so for me, priority 1 is the highest priority. So maybe if you did it like A's and then translated those into numbers on the back end, that would.
Oh yeah, it really is not that big of a deal. I really like the idea of using the alphabet. The reason for numbers is that numbers, there's an infinite number of numbers. So if you decide that, okay, I actually want to make this thing the highest priority, you can just increment the number by 1 without having to redo everything else, right? So say like right now at this moment, what I want to do is I want to make this coin the highest priority because I'm debugging. Then all I have to do is increment that, all I have to do is make that number the biggest number. And then now it takes the highest priority when I click the button. But yeah, there is only I guess the better way to do it might be to have the columns move up and down or something. But yeah, I think that's a great idea. It's a great suggestion. And there's so few of these that you don't need infinite numbers. It's just nice for me because I don't want to say, well, I had this at highest, but now I want to make this highest. So how do I make it highest-er?
Okay.
Most highest.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then you need most or highest.
Okay, so let's talk about that cash drawer a little bit more, and your concept that you submitted a dip for called cash send. How actually, I'll just ask to preface that conversation. What do you think the pros and cons would be of adding newer additional denominations? So right now, CoinJoin has denominations of 0.0001, 0.001, 0.1, 1, 10, and I think that's it. So there's they're all orders of magnitude of 10. Now I know that whenever I almost 100% of the time, I would say, like not quite that much, but 90+% of the time that I do a CoinJoin transaction, it gives me that warning that says you're using more than 10 coins in this transaction. That's detrimental to your privacy. And I know that sometimes that doesn't really matter. Like if I'm doing 16 rounds of CoinJoin mixing and I get that, like some people have said, you don't need to worry about that or whatnot. But the overall statement, I think, is true. The more coins you're using, the less private or less secure that transaction is actually in order to be like traced or whatever. So
okay, I'll speak for a minute and then I'll ask you to pull up the screen that I've shared.
Okay.
But okay, so first of all, there's a difference between mathematical perfection and reality, and sometimes the two are the same and sometimes they're not. One of the things that is the same between mathematical perfection and reality is that the optimal number of bits of information is the number E. which is 2.7 something something something. E is a mathematical constant. It's not as famous as pi, but it's used for things like calculating population rates and bacteria cultures and in economic systems. It's a number that has emerged from mathematical formulas that describes a lot of things. So the perfect amount of information that could be stored would be E. Now, this is one of those things where mathematical perfection and reality kind of don't mix, because E is not a countable number. It's not like 1, 2, E, 3, it's 1, 2, 3. And so you round to 3. So in practical sense, 3 is the most perfect medium to store information. Now, let's bring that back to reality. It's the rule of threes, right? We have all these things that are 3. We have in religion, there's the Trinity. In engineering, there's the triangle of fast, cheap, and good. Whenever you list something off, it just feels right to list it off in 3s. We have the idiom, bad things come in 3s. So 3 is kind of a magic number in terms of choices and trade-offs that has just kind of appeared in humanity. That's just something very natural. And this has to do with the way our brain works. But it's very nice that coincidentally having 3 options for something is mathematically as close to perfect as we can get, because 3 is as close to 2.7 as a countable number is. But when you look at money, this pattern also exists, although you might not have recognized it. Humans are built such that they understand orders of magnitude, right? So I need to understand, is this group of tigers bigger or smaller than this other group of tigers? And by what order of magnitude? Is it like twice as big, or is it 10 times as big? I can't tell you that there's 100 here and there's 357 there by looking, but I can tell you this group is twice as big as the other group. So it's 1 order of magnitude bigger. Or if we're looking at, depending on what you consider to be order of magnitude, whether you're doing 2 like binary in computers or 10 like people often do, you can get a sense of scale even though you can't count. And so in our money has become 3 choices for every order of magnitude. So you have it's not perfectly true in all situations, but it tends this way, that you have your 1s, your 2s, and your 5s, right? So, and this is how originally our dollar system was 1, 2, 5. That's 1 order of magnitude, 3 choices. But actually, well, we'll go into this in a second. It's actually representing the orders of magnitude even better than you think when you count this way. But then it's 10, 20, 50. We used to have a $50 bill. And then it's 100. And we stopped there because by the time we had by the time we had enough inflation to regularly need above 100, we also were inventing credit card systems, check systems, digital cash systems. So we didn't keep going with that.
The alternate explanation to that is that governments didn't want people having high cash values, easily transportable. So they did away with it.
I'll drink to that.
Yeah.
But the point is, like, that was our number system. And if you go down, it's 50. And then this is where it gets a little weird, because we have a 25 and a 10, but I think that is a trade-off, because the amount of silver that you could use, and like the different metals that you were working with between silver, nickel, copper. I think that the reason that it breaks down at the coin level has more to do with the way that the metals were processed than that it was the natural choice. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then you go down 1, and we used to have a tuppence. We don't have a tuppence anymore, but we had 1, 2, 5. But then dimes were silver, and so it was a tenth of a silver dollar. And I think quarters were silver as well. And then we had the $50, which would be the 5 again. So what this actually is it's doubles, wholes, and halves. So, but when we think about it across orders of magnitude rather within an order of magnitude. But within an order of magnitude, you have $10 as your starting point, 20 is your double, and then $5 is your half.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the pattern that appears in, I want to say, in nature as well as in human logic. So if we wanted to create a monetary system that reflects both mathematical perfection as well as the way that humans understand money, thankfully, the two systems are actually the same system, which is double, wholes, and halves of an order of magnitude. So 1, double is 2, half is 0.5. Tens, double is 20, half is 5. Hundreds, double is 200, half is 50.
Yep.
And if we take that now, if you share my screen, one of the problems that you saw with the cash drawer in Dash Core, that implementation of the cash drawer, is that it did not give you any option to deal with the scale of the money, which is actually really important because, you think about, a lot of kids may not get this, but the adults, will. When you used to have money in your wallet, what did you have? You had 1 100, you had 2 or 3 20s, you had a handful of 5s and several 1s, right? Because you organize your wallet, your cash drawer, or like the reason I call this cash drawer is because it's the cash drawer at the registry, or register. You go to the grocery store, this is how the cash drawer is organized, more or less, right? Yep. Except that they're using the double wholes and halves that we have in paper money. But the system is that you don't make lots and lots of room for the hundreds because you're not dealing with hundreds often. You might have 2 slots dedicated to 5s or 10s.
Yeah, you're not, AJ. Come on.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
But whatever the scale of the transaction is, there's a bell curve to it, right? Like you're never using pennies and you're rarely using $100 bills, but you're probably using $100 bills more often than you're using pennies, right? So this option is the one that you almost want none of if you can ever avoid it. This one doesn't really matter. It's just sometimes more convenient for certain types of transactions. And it's really, the two things that you need are your 20s and your 2s. So if we were to look at this represents about $2.50. So you need a few of these to make up the difference, and you need a few of these, but most of what you need is this. So if I was going to build a cash drawer, it should look like a bell curve where I have something like 25,
obviously 10. It depends on the size of transactions that you're typically doing, right?
Sure. Yes.
And this comes back to the issue that I was raising, where sometimes you're doing it. Almost always, I get that warning that I'm spending too many coins, and that would, there's toggles that I can change.
They're not. You don't have any toggles you can change for that. You would need something like this that allows you to toggle them.
Exactly. Because the wallet doesn't know, and sometimes I don't even know what size of a transaction I'm doing. So if I'm doing a transaction where I need 20, to send 20 Dash, and my drawer doesn't have any 10s, I'm going to be using hundreds of coins.
And right? that's what happens because this is what needs to be built in. Regardless of the size of transaction you're doing, it's not going to be off by more than an order of magnitude. Most people are going to be transactions that are based primarily on the $20 amount. You personally, because of what you do, I think you actually still fit into that category, that most of your denominations are in between. Yeah, because the rules of Dash Incubator that you can't spend more than 100 Dash.
It's not Incubator stuff. It's actually my personal use because I don't do CoinJoin transactions for Incubator. But I think the point is, if we had more denominations to choose from, if we had 20s, if we had 50s, if we had 5s and 2s, you're going to use less coins for sure.
Yes, and this is going to be the better outcome because, again, that's mathematical perfection. The number of choices needs to be 3, and it needs to be logarithmic. So this is mathematically perfect. You cannot design a better system, not this, but what I just described, you cannot build a better system than that. It is the guaranteed perfect system, both from a mathematical perspective and from a practical human perspective. It is a perfect union.
Yeah, and so there are two issues here. There's the one issue of this also gives you the customizability of saying exactly which of each coin you want. But what we're also talking about is introducing more denominations, the 2s and the 5s. I know that one concern about that is that the more denominations you add, the less likely it is that you're going to find mixing partners that need those denominations, and so it might take longer to mix. So that's a trade-off, right? If you
But
it's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, it's not the trade-off that you think it is, right? Because again, there's a bell curve here, right? So if the way that the current wallet is set up, if the current wallet doesn't get this, where it provides a bell curve to what you're actually going to need most often, then yes, that problem would persist. So if we introduced more denominations and we did not adjust at all the way that we cash drawer the denominations, then yes, that problem would exist. But that problem is the same problem that you already have. It already does exist, and that you're not getting the denominations you need, and you're getting a bunch of denominations you don't need.
Yeah.
And so then you're having to spend way more than you should, and so CoinJoin is ineffective from a mathematical perspective. You're not getting the mathematical privacy that you want, because you have to break the mathematical rules in order to do a regular transaction.
Yeah.
So where if you put it in a bell curve, most of the time you're going to need these transactions. So most of the transactions that are going to be happening on the network are the ones that people need the most, rather than all transactions being done equally according to how much money people have. So no matter what you need, you're always getting 50 of each, but that doesn't match. That matches what you have. It doesn't match what you need.
Yeah. So, and I know that Bridgewater in particular, he's the one that made the comment about the priority thing. And I know that there might not be anybody that knows more about the CoinJoin stuff than him in the Dash community. And he's been pushing for an implementation like this, where you, in the actual core wallet, you can actually describe what you have here. So hopefully at some point, Dash Core will also have this ability to show exactly what you want and give priorities and things like that. And that will, I think, help the situation a little bit. But I wonder, so is this something that you think would be a priority? Like, do you want to see the introduction of new denominations? And I do know that you also have this concept of cash send. Let's talk about that for a little bit, so that people can see. Like, I see a path where if we introduce more denominations to CoinJoin, that, like the 2s and the 5s, and then also transition that into something like what you're talking about with the cash send, which I'll ask you to describe in a bit. That would be the best of both worlds, where even like normal transactions that aren't CoinJoin transactions, they would be more private. They would be more secure, is the term that you like to use more. They would be more private. But also then you would have the option to CoinJoin those as well. So talk about what cash send is, and how this relates, and what the path might be to getting from here to there.
So there's two components. There's CoinJoin and there's private send, right? So CoinJoin is when you mix the coins. Private send, ironically, is when you unmix the coins.
Yeah.
So in private send,
I'm going to have you pause on that, because I want to describe that a little bit in the way that I understand it. So when you look at a block explorer and you see a coin, when you see a transaction where the inputs and the outputs are equal in length, that's a CoinJoin transaction. So I don't think that the community uses these terms like the way like we're using them. I think that we're using them in a way that's more descriptive, because a lot of times people think CoinJoin is synonymous with private send. And
well, that'd be like saying the brake pedal is synonymous to accelerator pedal. I mean, you need both,
I'm
but they do the opposite thing.
I know. I'm describing it for the folks at home because historically we have had this transition where we had a term called private send. And then in the Ryan Taylor era of Dash Core Group, there was a push to unbrand the private send and not use the term private, because the Japanese regulators didn't like that for whatever reason. They don't like privacy. And so there was this push to just say, okay, well, the industry is using this term CoinJoin, which is the technology that private send uses mostly. And so let's unbrand private send to CoinJoin. But that never really took root. And so now a lot of people in the community have this synonymous relationship where CoinJoin is just a different branding of private send. But I would like, and you would agree, I'm sure, I would like us to have a more defined distinction between these two, where CoinJoin transactions are those transactions where you're taking, let's say, 5 inputs and 5 outputs and then mixing them. And that is what de-anonymizes and gives some kind of ambiguity of who owns which coins. That's what we are calling a CoinJoin transaction. And private send would be when you take the outputs of a CoinJoin transaction and then spend them on, say, something that costs $27, and it's going to take 2 10s and 7 1s and it's going to combine those.
Doesn't combine them.
It uses 2 10s and 5 1s, so 7 coins of inputs, and it has, let's say, 1 output.
Sorry, were you talking about cash send or were you talking about private send?
I'm talking about private send.
Oh, sorry. Yes, it does combine.
Well, I'm not at cash send yet. I'm pausing on this so that it's clear. So in a private send transaction, which is the term that the AJ and I use for what that is you're taking CoinJoined inputs, using that as your inputs, CoinJoined outputs, which you're using as your inputs to the next transaction, and the output of that transaction is, let's say, 27 dash, and that uses 2 plus 7, so 9 coins to do that. And the output of that transaction is, let's say, 27, like literally the number 27. And so that's why you're saying, AJ, that actually unmixes the coins, because it actually combines the previously mixed coins into one output that's no longer mixed. So now,
you're combining all of the histories back together, which is why you're getting that warning about more than 10 coins, because when you combine so many coins, you can't determine specifically which coin it came from, but what you can tell is the probability of a coin it came from. So you can come up with a cluster of coins and say it's 50% likely that it came from these cluster of coins, and it's 70% likely that it came from these 3 coins,
Well, and what it definitely tells people is that these 9 coins definitely belong to somebody that has control over them in one wallet. So those 9 coins were definitely controlled by one person. And the cash send transaction that you haven't fully described yet, but I want you to describe now that I've given some more context, that is actually a better transaction, because even on the output side of that 27 dash transaction, you have multiple outputs that are, it's not one output, it's multiple outputs. And thank you for bringing up this dip itself. There you go.
Yeah, there's different terms we were flirting with in the beginning.
Okay, so now you describe it now since I've given the context.
Okay, so what cash send does, in its ultimate form, there is no difference between a CoinJoin and a private send. With cash send, a CoinJoin transaction is a cash send transaction, and a private send transaction is a cash send transaction. So cash send is that you only use denominated inputs and you only use denominated outputs, and there is a a happy bit where you get rid of the collateral, because in cash send you only use denominated payment. So there's two segments. There's the segment that represents the value, and there's the segment that represents the fee. And so the first 3 zeros after the decimal place represent the value, and the next 5 zeros after the decimal place represent the fee. And that is a programmatic, something that could be changed, but it turns out that with our current fee structure, that's the best way to do it, for a variety of reasons. And as long as Dash stays under $1,000, that still works, because the reality is, when you do an exchange from francs to euros to dollars, you're going to lose a few pennies, and you don't throw a fit about it because they're pennies, right? Like, if I need to do a money exchange and the exchange rate says that for $100 I should get 95 euros or British pounds or whatever, but I end up getting $94.50, it's like, it's not in real life transactions. When we do a trade between a financial system or currencies and we lose a few pennies, like the tax is more than that in the traditional systems, right? So you're not concerned that something rounded down, that it didn't round perfectly to, okay, I got 94.9978, like that. That's not the way that you expect it. You're okay with the fact that it rounds down and the person that's facilitating the transaction gets the bits that were rounded down in their account, essentially. So that's one of the things, is that there's the stamp value, meaning the fee value, and every coin is denominated in the top portion, the important portion, the top portion over here, I guess, is denominated with the money that you actually spend, the money that's useful. And the bottom portion, the dust, is denominated for fees in orders of 200. And so the way that it works is you've got your here's the outline of all of the available denominations. You cannot have denominations other than these denominations. These are all of them. Of course, you could have fewer if you wanted to do CoinJoin on 1,000. You'd probably have to connect to a lot of nodes and wait a long time, but you're also probably not going to be spending it right away. So, there's that. Maybe like in practice, we would probably still keep it to be something like 20 to, say, let's go all the way down to 0.1. You probably only use these for CoinJoin. You probably wouldn't use ones that realistically you would get so few mixes that it wouldn't do you any benefit at the current time. But that would just happen naturally. I mean, that wouldn't even be a thing of we have to explicitly define it that way. If the protocol allows all of these, and these are simply not available, it's the same as not having them. And if mysteriously they are available, well then great. We're no worse off. So this is every possible denomination. Obviously, it's more than 3 times more than the current number of denominations. But like I said, with the bell curve, what you're going to be tending towards, is the most somewhere in this region, and then almost none down in this region, almost none up in this region. So you're going to get that bell curve, and that's going to define how quickly you can get those done. And then let's see if I had like another table or anything. And then the trailing bits are just fees. And so every time a cash send happens, fees are redistributed. The dust just gets redistributed as part of the cash send. So you never get a signal of like, oh, this was related to that, because every time you're sending, the denominations stay the same and the fees are slightly adjusted. Whatever the cost of the transaction is, the fees are re-averaged across the coins.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I don't want to get too much into details about like how the fees and the dust and the stamps and stuff work. I just wanted to give people a brief reintroduction to that concept of cash tokens, or cash send, not cash tokens, cash send.
Well, the key thing is that it uses HD wallets, which none of the current software uses HD wallets. They only use HD wallets.
Most wallets do nowadays. Even
no, not a single one. Not a single one uses HD wallets to send.
To
That's what I was saying.
I think you're saying.
Right. None of them uses HD wallets for the transaction. So that's the other key thing. Right. Yeah. Because you would give somebody your XPub for them. So if Jojo and I are contacts, I have an XPub that represents Jojo. Jojo has an XPub that represents me. Whenever I need to send to Jojo, I'm not I only scan his QR code the one time that I create his contact. Yeah. Any other time I need to send to Jojo, I just select him from the list, and then my wallet is going to pick addresses that haven't been used yet, and they're going to send, the 1, the 5, the 0.02. It's going to send the denominated amounts off to Jojo. Yes. And this also makes it so that
we'll be sending to multiple addresses that all belong to that person, but the blockchain and anybody observing the blockchain doesn't necessarily know that's actually sending to one person. They see inputs and they see outputs, and there are many inputs and many outputs, and that's what cash send is all about. That's what we could have. There's a
and you can mix in cash send CoinJoin transactions with cash send person-to-person transactions, so you get like quadruple the benefits, because even within the transaction, you don't know which coins are a payment and which coins are a rotation.
Exactly. So there's no difference at the blockchain level in a spend transaction versus a mixed transaction. And that's kind of where you and I are going. We've been going down this road in our heads for over a year now. We haven't really, we have done those dips, but the first step towards this is increasing the number of denominations for coin joins.
I disagree that that's the first step.
It doesn't,
because you can can implement the dip without ever touching anything in that layer of the code. The dip can be implemented all the way up at the highest layer of the code.
Sure.
Where the UI is touching. It doesn't have to go anywhere near the blockchain code. But yes, to get the full advantage as far as CoinJoin's concerned, the first step towards improving CoinJoin would be adding the denominations.
Yes, which is the topic of today's, that's the topic today. So that's why I was bringing it up as well. So I think we've gone for almost an hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about? Let's go back to the tool again, the web CoinJoin interface. Anything else that you wanted to say about this, plans moving forward, before we wrap up today?
I don't really know. I need to take a breather for a day or two from it, because I did a lot of high intensity work on it, and for those people that do knowledge work, you know how it goes, and people who do physical work, they know how that goes too, because it's the same thing. Like you do a real big push to meet any sort of goal or deadline, and you need a couple days to recuperate.
We got a great little meme I share with my wife where it says, "That was fun. Now I'm going to take a 21-hour nap."
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. And that's kind of how I feel. But I want to get the queues. I want it to get so that you can see which queues are available. So like maybe put a little asterisk by the coins for which, if you choose those coins, you'll be able to mix them right away. So as queues come in, and queues have, I have to go look up in the spec what the lifetime of a queue is, because it times out after, I don't know if it's 30 seconds or if it's 5 minutes, but at some point a queue times out. And so I think there's some of that information.
The main thing that people might be wanting to know is when is this going to support Mainnet?
It supports Mainnet as soon as I flip the bit. But, I've got the word for it. I need to blank that out, hide that under a little lock icon in a menu or something.
Yeah. And even when it does go to Mainnet, this will definitely still be like alpha. Don't use this unless you're willing to lose money kind of stuff.
No. Please stop saying that. That is both offensive and untrue. This is fully tested. It goes by the spec. If a transaction goes on the blockchain, it is there. There is no, like, because the UI is ugly, the protocol doesn't work, right? It's like,
That's
if
not
you
what I'm
have an
saying.
ugly email client, it doesn't mean that because the email client is ugly, the person might not get the email. No, this is production code. This is not alpha code when we talk about the ability to do the coin processes. So, like, I wish you would stop saying that, because it's not true, and it gives a false sense of insecurity.
I'm not talking to you right now. I'm talking to the audience. So please let me talk to the audience.
All right.
I'm saying to the audience, do not use this code, despite what AJ said, if you are not comfortable with coins in a browser setting, do not use this code. If you are, this is perfectly safe code. That's what I'll say.
Okay, yes. Yeah, certainly
CYA.
you could clear out your browser cache and lose the money that's in the browser. Or not the browser cache, but the browser application cache, which is separate from the normal browser history cache.
Okay, fair enough. All right, so with that, I think we'll say goodbye. Thank you, everybody, for joining in. If you have any questions, drop them in the comments, and we will get back to you.